All right, everybody, we're going to get started here. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to this discussion. I have with us Jerry Bonanni, the Senior Engineer for Paint and Body Repair for Ford Motor Company, and Larry Cohn, I lost your title already.
Design for Service Manager.
Design for Service Manager. Both of these gentlemen are veterans to Ford Motor Company and have had a very long relationship with ProSpot. We'll get into that a little bit. I want to start first with Jerry and have Jerry tell us a little bit about how he got started at Ford and how you got to where you are today. And then Larry, you can chime in as well.
I started Ford in spring of 1995 directly as a field service engineer in Atlanta. So I was going to dealers that couldn't repair certain vehicles and repairing them. Since then, I moved on to different technical positions in remanufacturing, service pubs, as well as owner guide, and then over to my current position in 2004. So it's been a real neat ride. Definitely one of the better careers I could ever imagine in my life, but a real fun ride.
So I actually started in the insurance industry before I joined Ford, and joined Ford in 95 as well as a damageability analyst. I was looking at loss history, service cost of ownership, seeing what we could do to determine how best to design our vehicles for repairability. Did that for about 20 years and then spent some time in a group called Integrated Services where we were actually designing data packages coming off of the vehicle's connected modem and using those data packages for different use cases, both internally and externally. Predictive repair, first notice of loss, usage-based insurance, and leveraging that data right for the field. And then now I'm back in our Design for Service group, and our primary goal is to look at vehicles several years ahead of time and design in repairability features and serviceability features far upstream of when the vehicle is released for production.
Great. And Larry, maybe you can take this one too. You're members of the Ford Damageability team. So could you explain that to our audience, what that actually is?
Sure. What we're doing is we're actually looking at advocating for the collision technician, right? Working with the programs, developing collision repair procedures, incorporating designs into the vehicle so that we can effect a safe and quality repair on the vehicle. As you can imagine, it's a lot easier to make design changes to the vehicle in the digital space. So we're working several years ahead of time. For example, when we released the aluminum F-150 in 2015, we actually started designing that vehicle for repairability in 2009. So that's how far ahead we actually look at vehicles to try to design in repairability features.
One thing, if I could add really quickly, and I think I said it last night, I look at my job as a technician first. So the word for technicians, by technicians, is something I try to live by. And I do this stuff on my side anyway. I do a lot of body work, a lot of structural work, restoration. But I think the key is we're looking out for you guys as much as we humanly can to help make your life better as you restore that vehicle back to pre-accident condition. So a little bit kind of how we roll, if you will.
Yeah, and it's great to have people like you looking out for our industry and making these technological advances happen so we can all repair cars better, get them back on the road and safe and sound. So let's talk about some of the most significant challenges or advancements that you may have seen over the past decade or so.
Oh, clearly. I mean, we could talk about the aluminum vehicles ad nauseum, but the truth is I have a lot of technicians come to me and say how they really enjoy working with the aluminum intensive unit families. In particular, learning the riveting and the patterns and how to work with the rivets, aluminum welding. You have many more sectioning options with the aluminum. But in particular, if you look at some of the steel vehicles, the hybrid structures, including boron steel, including mild steel in some of the structure, maybe with aluminum portions, there's many, many different ways that we have to look at and research the repair before we commence the repair plan. care to add?
So after you introduced aluminum about 8 years ago, right? 2016?
2014 to 15, yes.
And the aftermarket industry has adopted to it. Do you think there's much more where we could take it as repair technicians?
I think the key to remember, and I'll go into this and expand it a little further, is making sure that you follow the repair procedures, especially when it comes to riveting and the joining techniques. And we'll cover that more in detail as you ask more questions.
Sure. Well, okay, go ahead, Larry.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that. I mean, we purposely designed these vehicles with the repairability in mind, and following those OEM procedures is critical because we know the vehicles better than anybody, and we specifically look at repair procedures and materials that are used and the instructions that we put in the workshop manual. So that's really the key to looking at any of these repair scenarios.
In other words, YouTube certified isn't good enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not YouTube certified, sorry.
Yeah. No YouTube for repair manuals from ProSpot and you guys. Back to aluminum. Do you have a preferred repair method between glue pulling, drawn arc, or capacitor discharge?
As far as you talk about joining and welding?
Yes.
In particular, all of our welding, anything you have in this booth is approved. When you look at all of the aluminum welders, particularly the triple, all of the different materials, the ProSpot riveting gun, those are all in the Rotunda catalog and approved tools for working with our aluminum intensive vehicles. But the key to remember is that when you look at those tools, make sure you're trained and you learn everything about that tool in order to exercise it to its fullest advantage. We were joking about that in the beginning. You know, you could have an F-22 Raptor, but if you don't know how to fly it and you don't know all the tricks and you don't know all the techniques of using that aircraft, it's the same thing with a tool. You can have an F-22 here, but maybe you're really good at flying a biplane. You want to be good at all of it. So learn your tools as much as you humanly can. Anything? Okay.
Great. Yeah, that's kind of the theme we want to talk about here. Let's get into it. Let's talk about things like rivets, rivet length, and what not to do and what not to do. And smoke might start coming out of his ears, but this will be good.
You want me to expand?
Yes, please.
Okay, so when we had a booth in SEMA, a guy came up to me and said that he was going to do a YouTube video on doing some body repairs. And I started quizzing him about the rivets. And he says, well, you could just put the rivets wherever you feel like. And I looked at him, and he had a nice wife and a nice child with him. I said, you look like a great guy, but you don't want to lose your business if someone gets hurt, right? And none of us want to build an unsafe vehicle. So I cautioned him. I said, take the video down, and he did indeed take it down off of YouTube. But you have to follow the rivet patterns and the rivet locations and the driving mandrels for the rivets. All that is dictated in the workshop manual information. Please don't ever deviate from it. None of us, show of hands, who would do a cold spot weld? Who would do a weak MIG plug weld or a weak seam weld? None of us would. Look at the same thing with the rivets. And the other thing, if you take away just 2 points from our visit today, follow the rivet guidelines in the workshop manual, utilize the factory rivets only, and do not repeat, do not use any aftermarket rivet on our vehicles, please. If you walk away with that, you will build a safe repair. But you're running a real risk by not doing it that way.
Well, just to echo that, I mean, the vehicles are purposely engineered for a reason, right? We run hundreds of crash test protocols on all of our vehicles. We have thousands of crazy smart engineers at Ford that build these vehicles for a reason, and we have to repair them based on those requirements that we have to make sure that we're getting the vehicle back to pre-accident condition as closely as we possibly can. So there's a reason why we put these instructions out, and we do a lot of research, and a lot of very smart people put input into those procedures.
Well said, and we're glad to have them on our team because that's why we earned 5-star, and we do as well as we do in the crash test. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the one thing we want everyone to walk out of this booth understanding, learning, committing to, and making sure anyone you know commits to it as well. Because that's one of the reasons we're here, is to share that word and to talk about those kind of procedures that have to be followed. Let's continue down that road a little bit. What do you other mistakes or what other things you see technicians and repair shops doing that just don't jive with the standards that you'd like to see?
I think the key thing is that as we look at structural repairs, understand the basic guidelines. We have some general information in the workshop manual, and I think of the workshop manual as the Bible. But as you go back to that Bible for repair, we have joining techniques, we have discussions on sectioning, we have sections on repair welding, we have guidelines for corrosion protection, restoration, paint, and other situations. So the key is that no matter what you do, strive for excellence, follow the general guidelines, not only of the industry, but what Ford dictates, and you should be fine. But I think the problem you get into is that some people want to re-engineer it. And like that guy wanting to make a YouTube video, he had his opinions, and I said, you know, I didn't want him to see him hurt, but I also didn't want a customer hurt from it either. And on my watch, if someone doesn't get hurt in a re-repaired vehicle, I feel like I've done my job. But it's the kind of thing that when you see a vehicle hit the barrier, it changes your life. And how you look at it as a body tech, it will change your life. To hear that sound, to see the carnage as it hits the barrier. So you think about that, we're preparing that vehicle should that happen again. I guess that's the best advice I could give you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Add to that?
Larry, anything to add to that? We wanted to ask you too about Ford's position on repairing for something like a light tear on a rear panel or something that, other non-structural areas. What do you what advice do you give for that?
Ford's position is very clear. On non-structural applications, exterior skin, you may section, repair as needs dictate and as the repair dictates, and your level of skill and the equipment you have. Repair the exterior skin according to your judgment. If you choose to section it, if you choose to go through, just keep it 50 millimeters away from any striker or hinge point. But all of our exterior sectioning guidelines and repairs are basically industry standard. Now, when you're getting into sectioning of structural, follow the Ford procedures to the letter. Structural repairs are such, if you're talking about a frame rail, you're talking about a unibody frame rail, let's say a Mustang front rail, we offer 3 different sectioning options for that rail. So by all means use them. They're in the book. They're dictated on how to do them. Add to that. Did I answer your question okay?
You answered my question.
So skin, you can do what you want. Structure, make sure you follow the procedures directly.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any questions? I'll come down and give you a mic if you want to ask these guys any questions. Perfect.
Think of this as a get-together. We're hanging out and talking as technicians. Feel free to bring up any questions you have, and after the group if you want to. But if you do have something on your mind, please bring it up. Very, very informal here. So happy to help you on that.
Yeah, we're here to share this wealth of information and to provide access to industry leaders like this. So looking in the future a little bit, what trends do you see? Most of us here as manufacturers are looking for new tool development opportunities. Where do you think the industry might be going with development of some new tools and or procedures?
Last year I took my wife to the CIC meeting at SEMA here, and she was absolutely amazed at some of the specific conditions that had to be met for ADAS, for supplemental restraint repairs. And one of the key things I took away from that discussion was every body shop is going to have someone who is geared towards electronic features. So someone who knows how to work with the ADAS systems, someone who can work with supplemental restraints, vehicle stability control. All of those things will come into play. As vehicles become more and more complex from a technology standpoint, you're going to see much more of a need in the body shop, because what does an accident do? it touches many more areas rather than a regular vehicle. So if it's something you're remotely interested in, or you know someone who's really good with scanning, that's a career thing that's going to take off. That's my prediction in the next 5 to 10 years. You're going to see many, many more shops gearing up. Stationary glass is another one, doing stationary glass. Paint techs are always going to be hot. Good structural technicians will always be hot. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of young people coming in.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, hopefully, and if you know young kids and they like restoring cars, push them to do it because it's a great career. Larry?
No, I would just echo your comments about ADAS, right, and the concentration of collision avoidance technologies that are coming into all vehicles now. And while we can't share anything, we're always looking at alternative materials and alternative technologies in the vehicles, like all other OEMs, right? So just,
Right.
stay tuned to, what can come out in the future and keep up with technologies and keep up with training. Make sure that you're getting all your techs trained on all the latest equipment and the latest procedures.
Exactly. And I was going to bring that up as well. It's a topic in every booth here about getting young techs into the industry. How do we do that better? We've put a lot of research and design into ergonomic solutions. Our Ergo Lift Assist here was designed to get up high on the vehicles without having to manually hold the tools. We've also put that on our riveting system. So we're looking for things that will make their job easier, and also technology, building in sophisticated technology into the tools. A lot of people say our welders are the iPhone of the welding industry, and that gives the technicians more opportunity to do more sophisticated things. Question down here? Hang on one sec.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Go back over the question.
Training.
Hello. I was asking if Ford has any plans to have in-person training for bodymen like they do in the service department.
We do a lot of our training with iCar. We do have new model and vehicle-specific training through Ford. If you join a shop or you're part of a shop that is in the Ford Certified Network, there's a whole plan for the training path and what the certification the shop needs to follow. A lot of that is with iCar, but we do have some really cool Ford-specific stuff you can do. And I see your Power Stroke jacket. There's a lot of cool stuff that's online. Go to FordCrashParts.com, and you'll see a whole list of classes you can do. And a lot of those are online. And there's a lot of other great information, videos, best practices, all sorts of great stuff there. FordCrashParts.com. And then in your shop, if you're not Ford certified and it's something you plan to do or you'd like to do, we have people who can talk to you about that. But that includes training and that whole hierarchy. Great question.
Yeah,
Thank
really
you.
Great question.
Add to that?
Thank you. Anybody else while I'm down here in the back? Questions? Here, right here.
Not so much a question. Just want to let you know that you guys' OEM repair procedures are the easiest to read, I find. I was in charge of an MSO getting repair procedures out and helping with everybody else, so I dealt with every manufacturer in the back thing, and I find yours are one of the two easiest to document and read and find and organize. So just want to give you a thumbs up on that.
Wow.
Well, that's great to hear. Thanks, John. I really, really appreciate that. And that just kind of goes to show the amount of work that Jerry and the other teams put into developing the repair procedures and proving them out with the Paint and Body Technology Center that we have, right? It's a very valuable, team and a very valuable group within Ford, and we see a ton of value there. And kind of going back to the really cool equipment here, I'm super excited to see this because this kind of reminds me of going into the plant and watching the automated systems in the plant doing the welding and the riveting and everything. this is super cool, very exciting, and I'm glad to see that ProSpot is getting into this area, and I see that as being really important to the development of technicians and retaining technicians, you know, to be able to automate and to work with some of these tools. So very cool.
Yeah, we are on it really on a focused way to find out methodology with cobot technology, not robot. These are made to work alongside humans. If you bump it, it'll stop, so it doesn't need safety caging or anything like that. And it's an assist to the technicians. We're using it in manufacturing, and those technicians that are using used to do manual processes are now using an automated tool like this and getting much more work done, more productivity, less injury, less risk management for the executive staff. So it's not here yet, but we're going to find a way to bring it to the market.
One thing, if I could add really quick, we talked about kids joining, and I'm very, very proud of my 12-year-old and my 14-year-old. They both have vintage cars. My 14-year-old has a 69 Cougar XR7, and we've restored that car from top to bottom on the rotisserie, and he's done structural work, he's done quarters. The younger brother's working on a 69 Mach 1, and he loves running scan tools and things. There's a saying, take a kid to a car show. If you've got a younger brother or a son, spend a lot of time in the garage with him or her. Girls too. We just got a scholarship for a wonderful gal in Pennsylvania, my son's daughter, and she's going to a school in Lancaster for body repair. So the more we introduce as experts in the industry, we show young people what a great career you can have. And by the way, they're going to shadow a body tech at one of our major Detroit area body shops because they want to learn and see what they do every day. But the other side was, I said, well, that guy works on 7 or 8 Shelby Mustangs at any given time too. So they thought that was pretty cool. But take a kid to a car show, I guess, is the thing. And take them into your garage and work with them and teach them the business. You want to add to that?
Love that. Love that. Or send your kids out to ProSpot. We might be able to put them to work one of these years. I don't know if we can compete with Ford, but that sounds like the kind of
We'll talk about that offline.
Young development you want. All right, everybody. I want to thank you, Jerry. I want to thank you, Larry, for being our guest today. They're going to be back tomorrow as well. So if you want to hear this again, we'll get into some other questions and dive deeper. If you have any questions that you think of after, bring them tomorrow or right after this presentation. Thank you for visiting us here at ProSpot. Enjoy our booth. Check out all the equipment, and have a great SEMA. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks for having us. Thank you very much.